YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look what we've got here. Good thing there's lights because it gets dark really early right now. This is the 1300 millimeter Arrows Bigfoot, and we are going to take it off in some windy conditions today. Elevator up, elevator down, ailerons, flaps, and this does come equipped with the Vector. And you'll notice we have a flashing light on the nose. We switched that around and we'll show you exactly how to do that. But obviously taking off from a runway would be sacrilege with this airplane. So we're gonna try to take off from the grass. Okay, take off flaps. Oh yeah, absolutely no problems. Flying rock solid, folks. It is windy right now, folks. Oh yeah, it's got some power. About 10%, just 10% on the sticks to get that thing to roll. Little cornhole action. Look at that. Very good, very good, very good. Auto leveling, not even looking. That's pretty awesome. So if you're wanting some sort of an easy flying plane, look at this, guys. Not even touching. Look at that. That's amazing. That's really stinking good. So that's got the Vector stabilizer in it. Lots of turbulent air. Those LEDs are coming through really nicely right now. Super nice. Love the flashing light now. Upside down performance is gonna be good, I can already tell. I'm gonna get pointed into the wind just so I don't lose it. Man, that thing is actually quite easy to control. It looks a little bit choppy right now because I'm used to a little bit more expo, but this is for being ready to fly. It's super easy. Look at this, guys. One-handed, in the crazy wind, that Vector stabilizer is just doing it. Upside down, no less. This is just crazy. Inside loops, look at this. Now, normally, I gotta admit, I don't typically fly like this. Takeoff flaps going in. Even in slow flight, it does all right. It's fighting to keep up with the auto. Not the auto leveling, but it's fighting to keep up with the stabilization because it's so intense right now. Good roll rate. That's 50% roll rate. Okay, full landing flaps. Let's check this out. Oh my goodness.
Jeez.
That's nuts. Let's see if we can do a little backward flight. Loving the lights. Guys, we've flown a lot of Cessna 150s of late, and this one's doing amazing. It's definitely holding its own. Okay, out of the flaps. Now the cool thing, let's go in the bowl. It's gonna be totally crazy over in the bowl. 2200 3S, 25C pack, not like we're on some crazy performance pack here. Hey, you on your toes? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's try landing here. Full landing flaps. Stay in your throttle, guys. Look at that.
Wow.
Right at our feet. Really no trouble at all. Love the lights. Love the flaps. Everything seems to be pretty much what you expect. The only thing I wasn't happy about is it got stuck on that grass over there, but it was good because it didn't tip over. So let's go ahead and get this on the pavement. We'll show you a pavement takeoff, now short takeoff style. Full throttle, get the tail up, and then boom! That is so cool. Okay, out of the flaps. Man, that produces a lot of drag, folks. Those landing flaps.
But it didn't balloon that much.
Yes, it did.
Did it a little bit?
Oh yeah, I can feel it. Okay, full landing flaps. Look at that, it just goes. Okay, so let's go look at it. Now, obviously that was a piloting error there, but with a bounce like that, I'm expecting to see virtually no damage. This thing is super sturdy. It's not gonna be as, you can see on the pavement there. Okay. It's not gonna be as touchy as some of its bigger competitors because it's just really solid and really simple. Look at the tail. Is there any damage on the vertical stabilizer or horizontal stabilizer? Okay, so that's always good. So let's go ahead and just take right back off, no messing around. I have no idea how much more flight time we can get out of this, but I'm gonna go into takeoff flaps. Seems to do really good with that. Let's try for a less insane takeoff. Oh yeah, up on the mains. So cool. And then right over the hill, catch that wind and then into the throttle hard. about 60% throttle. Look at that thing up against the blue. Looks so good. A lot of throttle on that turn to stay out of the stall. Oh, I'm loving the way we did that little flashing light on the nose. That was kind of a cool accident. Folks, I'm not a big fan of Ready to Flies in terms of flyability, but I gotta say, this is pretty impressive. It's probably the best Ready to Fly that we may have ever done. And I know that sounds like a bunch of BS, but let's just be honest, guys. We do a lot of Ready to Flies, but they're usually kind of cheapy. You know, something to get your kids excited, but not really be a hobby grade thing. And this plane, Takeoff flaps just to keep out of a stall. Super happy with it. That's not dead battery. That was me coming out of the throttle. Let's try landing at our feet again. Okay, full landing flaps in the throttle. Attitude of the aircraft is pretty much where we want it. That was sort of at our feet.
Almost our feet.
Now, we dragged the tip a little bit. Let's show the people at home how much damage we caused. 0.
Yeah. No.
That is awesome, guys. And look where the lights are. They're tucked down into the wing, so you can see from both sides, which is nice. That's something I'm always talking about, is just trying to basically get planes to behave in a way that you want them to. See, got the wheel up. Look at that, just absolutely gorgeous. Okay, we're on 2200 3S. We've had a lot of flight time here and still just running like Maniacville. Still cornholes with the best of them. Very, very pleased with this plane, guys. Arrows has just been super outperforming itself, in my opinion. That's not even 100% output. That's like 75% stick. Okay, so full landing flaps. Let's do a safe landing. And when I say safe, I don't mean safe. That's a branded thing. Okay, so that was using safe. I did have to help it. I'm gonna try it with takeoff flaps. Seems like the landing flaps are actually too much on this windy day. That's 30% throttle, folks. Okay, so we are still in. Now we're in leveling, auto leveling, okay? Full landing flaps. Let's let this thing land. I'm just pushing the nose down. Pushing the nose a little bit down, now pulling back and flaring, and there it is, guys. Pretty much land itself. And look at the flag. It's not like it's a calm day here.
It's windy.
I'm sure you can hear it in my mic.
And
so
it comes around the house right where you landed too.
Yep, there's a hill here. So we're gonna try to get out of the hole here. It's gonna be a little challenging, so full up elevator, and we're gonna just gun it. There we go. Yep,
Wow.
In the air. Folks, super, super, super thrilled with this. I didn't even give it one click of trim. We're still in the auto leveling. So out of the auto leveling, whoops, little cornhole action there. Takeoff flaps, a little bit of throttle, full landing flaps. Woo! That was like the least good landing ever. But it just does it, folks. There's nothing better than I can report than a nice, solid, light, easy to fly plane in a ready to fly, watch this, out of a stall, inside loop, guys. On 22 3S, look at this. Look at that crazy performance. That is nutty, nutty performance. Now, I'd be lying if I said I don't kind of miss my NX right now, just for the simple fact that I would love to have some delayed deployment of flaps. And I would love to correct automatically. Look at this. That thing will move too. I would love to have the deployment delay. That would help so much. Now watch this upside down flight performance. Okay, so check this out. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Oh, that is so amazing, guys. Full landing flaps, barn door flaps, upside down performance. Okay, out of the flaps, coming around in crazy fashion, almost in 3D flight fashion, because that's about the only way you can fly today. Ooh, are we finally there? We might be there. Takeoff flaps coming in. Giving it a little bit of juice here. There we are, folks. Okay, so I think we might be getting close. There is no throttle hold on this thing, so you gotta be real careful about it. So let's go ahead and put the XBC battery. Oh, actually, we got this one on there.
Yep.
Let's just show them what this says. 3.8, 3.76, 3.75. You know what? I would call that spent, and that pack, I can't believe how well that thing performed. We have been preaching about how great the smart packs are, and I gotta be honest, they have been amazing. But one thing I can tell you right now is that that little Arrows pack did amazing, and that was in a ready to fly. That is almost incredible.
We are at 10:40 right now on video, so we were just over 10 when you landed.
So I would say 10 minutes of actual flight time.
Probably.
That's pretty amazing for a stock 3S battery, folks. If you're looking for a great ready to fly, and I'm not just saying that because we started working with Arrows just 3 planes ago. Honestly, we've been super impressed. Every of the 3 planes we've done have been super good. Now, we may have had some mistakes on my part for not knowing how to read English on the BAE Hawk, but that was my fault. And I was trying to fly it on 2S instead of 3S. But man, this thing is awesome. I'm loving it. Now, I'll be honest with you. Is this gonna replace my Carbon Z Cessna 150T? No. But you could have both and really enjoy them in different applications. Here's why. This thing, you can plop in the back. By the way, that beeping you're hearing is a 1-minute warning, so it's a counter,
Yep.
okay? Now, good luck keeping track of that as you're flying.
And it also beeps when you change modes.
Yes.
Stability modes, I think. Yep.
But it's a different beep. I can hear it's a long
Yeah.
beep versus a short beep. Is it gonna replace the Cessna 150T? No, it absolutely not, because they're so different. First of all, that thing is more scale, it's much bigger, flies great, but it's also on a 6S pack. The packs I'm flying on them cost almost 200 bucks, guys. You can just about get this plane for that. Now, I mean, not quite that much, but the thing is, it's just a different echelon of plane. Now, I want to say this plane flies great. It flies very good. Now, is it as good? Definitely not in all areas of performance, but you can't stick that thing in a car and drive down to the flying field and do it without taking it apart. Now, you can't take it apart. Great plane, not trying to take anything away from it, but it's the closest that we have to compare this thing to. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't expecting this to perform half as good as it performed. And to be honest, the lights are actually bright.
They are.
The amplitude is enough to make a difference. This is what happens when you live in the Midwest. You get beautiful summers and the nights, you know, the sunsets drag on for hours and hours, it feels like. And then winter comes along and it's like, you get 5 minutes and it's gone. So, super impressed with this Arrows Bigfoot. We've been really impressed with Arrows in general. Everything we've seen so far has been great. The vector stabilizer system is awesome. It helps you guys hold the cost down on some of the more expensive receivers that you could be using from Spectrum, or in this case, a straight up ready to fly. The only thing you have to buy that's not included in this is a handful of different tools that we happen to use that you could probably do without, but we use like forceps to really help to plug in the wires. We'll show you that in the video coming up shortly. And then 4 AA's. 4 AA's, pretty much everything else we did was just pretty standard tools. You could use, you know, needle nose pliers. It was just kind of hard to reach the cables. Beyond that, the thing went together super smooth. It was really easy build. Look how beautiful the thing is. I mean, I'm just loving it. It comes with flaps. You don't have to install the flaps or add the flaps or anything like that. I didn't even glue the antenna in. I just put some tape on there. We'll show you how to do that in the video too. But just look how sweet that thing is. Just loving it, folks. I don't know if you guys are in the same boat, but I think this thing looks super good. And it also flies really good too.
And it is not ideal.
Not at all. Now, is this the most scale plane? No, but it's also really strong, but it's giving where it needs to give. So like when I hit the wings on the ground, there wasn't any issue. Look at the landing gear. They're not all splayed out, and I didn't exactly have all good landings. In fact, I want to abuse this battery just a little bit more. We're at 3.8 volts, so what we're going to do is we're going to take off again. There it is. Okay, so we're just flying along. I'm in stabilized mode here. The stabilized mode's been just working fantastically in this Vector. I love the roll rate in this thing. It gets you out of trouble super fast, which is really helpful when you're out here flying in crazy conditions. I wouldn't even call these crazy, but look how nice the lights are working.
The lights are great.
Guys, that's one thing that we've been super annoyed with, is that some of these manufacturers are coming out with planes without LEDs. Of course, the last one we did for Aeros didn't have LEDs, so I probably shouldn't talk about that one right this second. I'll wait till the next one. Just kidding, guys. This thing has awesome LEDs. Not every plane is gonna have LEDs. Of course, grass landings, it'll do them with no problem. That area that I just flew over has some really rough patches, so I like to lift off before I hit them, because that's the type of thing that'll break your prop. Let's try it with no flaps. Here we go. Just coming in. Gonna be a little bit faster, of course, but look at that. Look at that. No problems at all. No problems at all. Oh, even through the tall grass, doing a little haircut for the lawn. Whee! What'd you think of that, camera crew? So here we go. We're gonna do another touchdown, this time with full landing flaps. We're just gonna get it down here, no problems. Look how slow it goes. I mean, you can land it even quicker than that.
Yeah.
But just super happy with this plane. I can't believe how good it performs. All right, out of the hole. This grass is fairly smooth. Let's go ahead and do this. We're gonna start losing light, so I don't wanna be unfair to this model. Full up elevator. Get it out of the hole, baby. There it is. You see the grass hanging off the back? That is awesome. Folks, you guys know kind of what I can do as a pilot, and you know what we've done in the past for reviews. You know what type of space we're dealing with here. And look at this thing. It just gives and gives and gives. And then it gives a little bit more, right when you least expect it. It does sound like there's braking on the motor too, which is kind of weird. Woo! Woo! It's so funny with all the grass there. I think we got the trifecta of grass there. Hey, you want to come to the right side, please? Thank you. You see it?
Yeah.
You guys see that? I'm like pretty much going backward here in a ready to fly. That is incredible, folks. Super impressive performance here, folks. And you know how we do it. We usually try to destroy the battery for you here. I'm just waiting to hear that battery sag, but it just hasn't yet. Okay, here we go. Yes, you could do this as your first plane, but you're not gonna be flying it like I am. You're gonna be flying it in the auto leveling, and it's gonna be a much simpler flight. And those tires are a little bit grabby. If I had to say something I don't like about the plane, that would be it. But to be honest, we've got a bit of a crosswind. It's going about like this. Okay, so it's coming at me from this angle. So when you have a clean driveway that's got a lot of grip on it, you're gonna tend to find that. Even with the pneumatic tire, you're gonna get a little bite. These ones bite pretty bad, but we knew that going in. Look at this, this is hilarious. By the way, no throttle cut. That's another complaint I have. I would love to see throttle cuts integrated into ready to fly planes, but really there's only so much you can do. That is awesome. That is so cool. And it's not even really dead yet. I mean, this thing has been a blast to fly. And is there anything that we can really honestly say about this that's inappropriate? The tires, that's not a big deal on a ready to fly. Are you kidding? Compared to most of our ready to flies, we can't even get bogies that stay out the, land without chattering like crazy.
Yeah.
And also the size is good. 1.3 meter is a good size class. It gets you enough to actually see it from a distance. You can fly it away from yourself a little bit. Obviously, going into winter here, this thing would do great if you built yourself some snow skis. I think this thing will go on floats too, but I don't know that for a fact, so don't hold me to that yet, guys. But I can definitely say that I like the tricycle configuration on this Bigfoot. I wasn't sure what we were getting into on this one. I thought, we've got really good Cessna 150Ts, and I'm thinking, I don't want this to detract from what we've already done that's really great, But I'll tell you what, man, this thing is way better than we thought it was gonna be. So super happy with Arrows. Camera crew, if you could carefully hold that just because there's no throttle cut. So really, at the end of the day, things that we did different on this, I added a little dirt there for extra counterweight. See that? That was on my really good landings.
Yep.
Just love the way that thing went together. It flies great. Love that you can see the LEDs. Look how bright that is. That is not dim.
No.
The white light, I love that it's yellow instead of that ugly 5K color. This is more like a 3K color or 2.7K. And they're both the same, yeah. We have noticed that some of the manufacturers will use like a 6K light and then a 2K light.
Yeah.
So they're totally, one looks like it's weird cheap LED and then one looks like it's a real incandescent or halogen bulb.
Like blue.
Yeah, which is cool. So again, I keep coming back to the fact that this is really a ready to fly plane. So our expectations are usually not really high. And I felt like this thing did every bit as good, if not better, than some of the competitive offerings. Now, I can tell you there's one competitive offering I'm thinking of right now that rhymes with Barb and Bub.
Oh.
And it's, I mean, it's a great 1.3 meter plane, so I'm not trying to take anything away from it, except that this one probably is slightly better in the ready to fly configuration. Now, that being said, you don't have to get this in ready to fly. You can put your Spectrum transmitter or your Futaba transmitter or your JR transmitter or whatever it is that you have a receiver for. You don't need any sophisticated programming. You basically set it up and the vector is already set for you. Now you can also get it as a true plug and fly without the vector at all. And then you can buy your sophisticated radio system with stabilization, auto leveling, all that jazz, and you can do it. And this channel is where you can find out how to do that. All you'd have to do is find another plane that was in a plug and fly and just follow along, and we'll show you exactly how to set it up. You just apply it to this particular plane. That being said, does it need crow? Oh, heck no. That thing does great with the flaps the way they are. The only thing I'm missing on this plane is twofold. Realistically, some softer tires would be cool. I'd also like elevator to rudder mix, and I would like deployment delay. Those are all along the lines of a computerized transmitter would solve that. I could go inside, I could take a $50 or less receiver, and I could take out the receiver here, and I could be set up with my NX8 and do all that stuff right away. And I would also get my throttle cut. That would have been like the 4th/3rd issue. So really, the only thing that I wouldn't get by switching out the receiver would be some pneumatic tires, which you can get pneumatic tires at your leisure for any plane you have. So we've gotten $600 planes that have crappy tires. So I wouldn't even qualify these as crappy by any means. It's just more a matter of I'd like them to be a little softer. And that's, honestly, that's true for every manufacturer.
Yep.
Everyone. So I can't think of one that's come with good tires. No, that's not true. There was one.
Yeah.
X-Fly. X-Fly had one. Yeah. So they had some big pneumatic squishy tires. But then I thought the wheels were ugly. Really, really ugly.
And it depends on where you're flying too, if you care.
If you're in grass like that,
grass.
And honestly, this thing is marketed to grass takeoff and landing. It's a STOL plane, short takeoff or landing. And so super, super happy with that. I love when a plane does what it says it's gonna do. Yeah. And that's why you come to Brian Phillips RC, so that we can vet them in the most terrible circumstances we can come up with, and then you don't have to. That being said, very happy with this battery performance too. Super surprised, in fact, by how well it's done. Let's give them the full XBC battery check.
I don't think you grabbed a adapter.
We don't need it.
Oh.
We're not gonna need it anyway.
Okay.
All we need is balance lead. Smart technology, look, it's got more life in it, 9% according to this. Now, of course, that doesn't mean much because I would call 3.8 spent.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we didn't hit a low voltage warning. And by the way, if you don't have one of these in your toolbox, you need one. It is one of the best, most seeming, you're gonna look at this and see, that is the most gimmicky, stupid thing I've ever seen in my life. The same thing with this. These things are like super cheap. This is not super cheap. They were cheaper when they first came out, and now they're a little bit less super cheap. But still, this thing's like, I think about 50 bucks. If you don't have one, you need to get one. You can test your servos with it, both different speeds of servos. You can set up your smart batteries. If you use smart batteries, you can test all your batteries if they have a balance lead. And if they don't have a balance lead, you can test your smart stuff, but you do have to have adapters for the bigger packs. And you don't even need the balance lead to do those things on the smart packs. But that being said, we've been super happy with this thing. It's awesome. we've been super happy with these things, except for when they fail. And then all of a sudden you've got like one cell that doesn't work right. And you're feverishly trying to figure out what's wrong with your batteries. And you realize it's a stupid $3 tester or $5 tester. And yes, you can get like 10 of these for 50 bucks or, you know, 5 of them for, you know, it's just the price varies. It depends on where you buy it from and how many you get at a time. So surprised by how good this plane did. We were surprised by how well the Edge 540 did. I would say that I was less surprised by the Bay Hawk because I felt like it just did exactly what I expected of it. But we have been really underwhelmed by belly landing planes like that in the past. And so that is 3 for 3 so far from Arrows.
Yeah.
Like, what are the chances?
Yeah.
The last time we took a chance on a new line, and that, well, not the last time, but one other time we took a chance on a new line, we ended up with misery and tears.
A lot of tears.
And they lasted for many, many, many hours every time we built a plane. This is about the opposite you can get. Stay tuned. We're going to go through the unbox, build, and radio setup, which is pretty much inconsequential. I think I flipped one direction.
Yeah.
But otherwise, guys, great plane, great value. There may or may not be coupons. We try not to talk about coupon codes because you may be watching this in a year and that coupon code might be gone. But just check the link in the video description below, follow it, and it'll be pretty obvious. Check it there, do yourself a favor. If you're ordering this as a Christmas gift for one of your hobby friends, yes, they will like it, even if it's in a ready to fly. If they fly Futaba, who cares? Get them the ready to fly. If they fly Spectrum, get them the ready to fly. And then they can take it out and do whatever they want. But they're up in the air, they're having fun. You don't have to spend a bunch of money. You know, what do you got, like $2 in AA's? So just super, super excited to bring you guys something new, exciting, that also does what it says it's gonna do. And it's not like some, you know, like, oh yeah, well it's good, but it's not really that good. No, this is like top of the line for this size class. Very pleased. And yes, it will stand on its own against the big competitors. I don't know if the price point is going to be, you know, like some huge difference, but I want you to know we really like it. We really like stuff, we really tell you. So stay tuned, so much more to come. If you want to help support our channel, buy from the links, and then you'll be supporting us with small financial contribution but from somebody that's not you, which is the best way to do it. And then also that helps us to build clout with these different companies we work with. And by the way, we don't care if you buy this one or the competitive brand that rhymes with, what was how did I rhyme with that?
Oh.
Carbon Cup, Carbon Cup 1.3. Anyway, so if you guys like that one, we don't care which one you buy. These guys want you to buy this one, but those guys, they want you to buy that one. I really don't care which one you like. I'm just telling you, this one is surprisingly better than we thought it was gonna be. So if you get this one, you might actually be happier. Even if you want the useless GPS system on the competitive brand, the one that doesn't work, that I wouldn't get, that's just gonna scare, that's gonna cause you to take a change of drawers with you to the flying field the first time it kicks in. And you'll need them, because it's gonna be flying along and like all of a sudden, off in some other random direction, you're gonna be running around like, oh, I lost control. That's how it's gonna go.
Sometimes simple is better.
Simple is better, trust me. All right, guys, that's all you get for tonight. Stay tuned, we're gonna do the unbox, build, and radio setup next. Thanks for watching. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look what we have here. We're gonna open it right now. Something new and exciting. You've already seen it. We haven't. Excited to bring you some more Arrows stuff. What is it that we have here? Ooh. There's a technical bulletin, it looks like. Whoa, it is the Bigfoot 1300 millimeter. This one is in a ready to fly configuration, which means that it's not ready, but you can make it ready. Very exciting. This has a wingspan of 1300 millimeters, which is 51.1 inches for those of you in the United States of America. And also it comes with everything you need with the exception of, I think, maybe some AA's, but we're gonna find out right now.
Did you say vector stabilization?
This has a vector built in, I believe, on the ready to fly. It has LEDs, as you can see from the image here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not sure if there's any more. There might be an anti-crash beacon on there too. This has a big old Tundra tires. And this is a tail dragger, as you can see, which is similar to other planes that we've reviewed in the past. And I always like a good tail dragger. It's got everything you're gonna need. This thing flies on 11.1, so it's a 3S 2200, 25C. I should probably put this over here since we literally have an open flame on the stove right now.
Maybe.
Would make for an exciting unboxing. So as you can see, it's dark outside right now, so we are filming this unbox, and this was like 2:30 in the afternoon. Just
Yeah, that's how it feels. Just
kidding, guys. It's not quite that bad. That tape is already cut. What the heck? Maybe it's a sample thing. I don't understand. Okay, so what do we have in here? We have an Aeros RC transmitter. Okay, so ready to fly means it comes with everything you're gonna need to fly the aircraft. Okay, so it's a mode 2, rudder, throttle. Got a little detent action. Not sure if you guys can hear that. And got reverse, aileron, reverse elevator, reverse throttle. Well, that's kind of dangerous. Reverse rudder. It's got a VTEL, a normal, aileron normal, and then delta. And I'm not sure what those are. It's really hard to read that, but it says 2 point, can you even read that? Like, I can't even read what that says. It says 2.4 gigahertz.
But yes, holy cow.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sitting here looking.
And then this would be trim, right?
Oh boy. A folded manual. How dare you, Aeros? There's this. So just to be totally clear, if you get this as a ready to fly, and then you decide later you want to make it a, you know, a vector style, I believe you can still go back to a regular standard vector setup, or you can actually go and set it up without the vector. And that's something we haven't really talked a lot about because we're new with Aeros. It's something we're just learning right now, so I don't want to go and overstep my bounds on something I don't really know yet. But what I can tell you so far is the 2 planes that we've done, and you will have seen them by the time we film this, well, actually tomorrow. You will have seen the BAE Hawk, and you will have seen the Edge 540, and both have been great. And basically what they have is they've got that vector stabilizer, and then you can use just a cheap, but still high quality Spectrum receiver that's a 6-channel without AS3X, because the AS3X is not necessary, it's handled through the stabilizer. And so the vector becomes the stabilizer and the receiver becomes the receiver. Now where that really shines, awesome, big flaps, looks like 9-gram servos here. That's an Aeros analog 9-gram plastic gear servo, okay? So big aileron, big flap, really nice finish. It's one big decal. That's why I was doing that. Yeah, it's all one decal. See how it's clear right here? Yeah. You want to see, when you see these overlays like this, and this is all separated out, they tend to buzz, bzz, and it's really annoying. Vortex generators, that's really cool. Not super big, so it's probably not gonna do a lot functionally, but it's cool. And then of course the droop here on the wing, really like that. And then we have this, which is of course gonna be our wing strut, and that goes down to the main fuselage and looks pretty simple. And then of course we got a couple of wires here. We'll just untape that real quick. Looks like the LEDs are fired up through this and labeled as flap, and then of course the other one's aileron, so we'll just have that ready to rock and roll. There is a wing spar here, a fiberglass receiver, and then feels like it's pretty sturdy. Yeah, you can see that's the decal. So it looks like we just have the wires going out, but it feels sturdy. It's not totally stiff, but it looks like this spar probably goes about halfway out. And the other telltale sign that you can look for on a wing is if there's these horizontal slots like this. And those slots are part of the molding process. So I'm gonna just leave that. There's some holes here. It looks like that's where we're gonna receive the hardware to hold it to the fuselage. So we've got the wing spar here, and this is what we do on Brian Phillips RC, is we unbox the components. Kind kind of hard to tell. That feels like it's fiberglass, but I'm not sure. So of course this is gonna go from one wing to the other, and that's a wing joiner. And there's another wing is the next thing that comes out. We just kind of go through the process of opening up the box and showing you how things are packed. Really big sturdy pieces of foam between the two pieces of foam to protect the foam from the foam. We always jokingly reference that. Looks like some hardware here. I'm gonna show the people that. And here is an AC power outlet. This is the AC standard US non-grounded outlet plug. And then we have the input that goes into the charger, because this is a ready to fly, so it's gonna come with the full shebang, which is really nice. For anybody who's new to the hobby, these ready to fly planes are great for you. Now, I am going to tell you something that you probably don't want to hear with a ready to fly video. Well, I can just use that transmitter forever. Sure you can, if you want to have a bad experience, because these things are good to get you in the air. But as soon as you know you're in it and you're hooked, just get a programmable transmitter and do that. That is good advice, and you will thank me later. This is a 2200 milliamp, 11.1 volts, is a 3S, meaning that there's 3 cells in series. So minus plus, that's 1 cell. This, the white and white, that's another cell, minus and plus. And then another cell, minus and plus, and they're in series. This is how you balance and you keep all the cells charged at the same rate. And then it has an XT60 for the discharge lead, okay? So you're probably thinking to yourself, but Brian, this is a ready to fly plane. Why don't you tout how great ready to fly is? I am. It's applicationally based. If you're buying this plane and you're new to the hobby, it is a great setup to get it ready to fly. But am I gonna recommend a ready to fly for somebody who has a programmable radio? Why would you ever do that? It'd be the stupidest way to do it. These are gonna cost more and you're gonna get an inferior performance. Even though this looks like a really nice transmitter, I'm not gonna recommend you use this for every plane you have. That would be ridiculous. So that being said, it feels like a pretty high quality transmitter, but it's not gonna give you things like expo and different controls, programmability for flaps and things like this. So, I mean, there is switches. There are switches, 3 position, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. So that's probably gonna, I don't think we're gonna have a throttle hold. So we're gonna have to be real careful when we're using things so we don't cut our fingers. Or maybe we can make an assignment there. I'm not sure how it works. So here we have a pretty plain Jane balance charger. So basically it gives you a little color code, 2 or 3S balance charger. So basically what's gonna happen is you can plug this in. And in fact, let's go ahead and plug it into a wall outlet down here and just show you how this works, and then we'll show you an alternate method. If you were gonna plug this in, we have a little outlet on the side of our island here. And all you have to do is it brings up and it just kind of has a sequence here. You got a keyed plug here. Grab the balance lead. You can only plug it in one way. Red light means it's charging. Now, ordinarily when you charge a battery with a balance charger, it's gonna look something like this, or it's gonna look something like this, where you're gonna have a charger that turns on. Of course, you can buy these from hobbyzone.com while you're there, or you can get them from Horizon Hobby. In this case, this one was provided by Horizon Hobby, so of course, we're gonna point you there. It's got 2 different styles of plugs. This is a different connector, okay? So as you can see, it looks a little different. This is an adapter that comes with some of the more robust Arrows brand batteries. So like you can plug that little adapter in there from the XT60, and that will allow you to plug into, we'll just demonstrate on this same theory, but it's just a different battery. This happens to be a 4S instead of a 3S, like what's provided. And then you plug in your balance lead. And then what happens is, when you plug that in, there's lots of data that's shared from the battery. And then you can start the charge sequence and you can charge it at whatever rate you want. So really the idea is this is gonna give you the ability to charge a bunch of different size batteries at the rate you want to. This is gonna charge at the rate that it charges at all the time. And the rate is listed right here. The input's 100 to 240 volts AC at 50 to 60 hertz, and it's designed to charge at 1,000 milliamp hours, or milliamps. And then the balance, yeah, we don't care about that. So this is a 2,200 milliamp battery, and that's milliamp hours. So that's in 1 hour, it's gonna discharge 2.2 amps in 1 hour. That's what milliamp hour stands for, okay? It just happens to be in thousandth is 2.2 amps. So this is charging at 1 amp. So it's gonna take an hour to do 1,000 milliamp, or excuse me, 1,000 milliamps. So it would be, you know, a couple hours to charge this if you're fully discharged to zero. But my understanding is when you're using a Lipo, you're not generally gonna discharge that much. Then come back over to the more sophisticated charger. You press start, you can set the charge rate. The charge rate in this case would be set to something like, you know, what is this battery size? This one happens to be a 3300 4S, so we would set that to, waiting for the exposure, guys. You would set that to went right past it, folks. You would set it to 3.3 amps. And then you would just start, okay? And then it tells you how much capacity is there, and it's gonna tabulate how much is going in and how many milliamp hours have been replenished, okay? So the reason we show you these things is because eventually you're gonna wanna get into something like this, and then you can go ahead and do that at your leisure. This happens to be a 4S, but the idea is whatever battery you pick is what you're gonna pick. But when you get it ready to fly, you get everything you need. Just to give you an idea, you might spend as much on this charger setup and the adapters as you will on a plane. So just know that going in. You get it ready to fly, get you in the air, and that's very important. But the first thing I'm gonna recommend you get, as you get into the hobby and you know that you're in it to win it for a couple of planes, would be to get a programmable transmitter. But this one's gonna get you in the air right away. Okay, so the other wing's exactly the same. We won't go into great detail on that one. Of course, this plane comes equipped with ailerons and flaps, so you're gonna have ailerons to help roll the plane. The flaps both go down, and that changes the stall speed of the plane, so it's very good for STOL performance, which would be short takeoff or landing, and that's what STOL stands for. I feel like this thing needs to come off. It does. So you gotta cut a lot of these things. But also there's a rudder and elevator, which is on the tail. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's gonna give you rudder, elevator, ailerons, flaps, throttle, and then that's everything. So that's 5 channels, but that thing is capable of 6 total channels. So here's one channel, here's another channel, here's another channel, 3 if you're counting, another channel, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 controllable channels.
Does the Vector take up a channel?
Generally, the Vector takes up a channel for controlling whether it's on or off. So that's a very good point. So yep, so it looks like 6 channels on there. Really nice landing gear.
Yeah.
Aluminum, I like the way they look. They've got that pattern on there, it makes them look like real, but then they're really hard. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be great for grass, but if you're on a hard surface, you may find that that's maybe not so great because they're hard. But then you've got this flex here, and then it's really pretty sturdy. So I'm happy with that. I'd like to see a softer tire. So if you have issues with that, you can always upgrade and put some pneumatic tires on there, but you have to try to keep your weight down. Really nice looking, like this. The red and white is good. It'll be good for visibility. There's our receiver. You'll note that it's just loose mounted in there. And then there's the Vector, which is hard mounted, which means that they have stuck it down with some sort of glue or a double-sided tape or like a foam tape. And then there's some nutzerts in here, or inserts that are glued in with plastic, and they retain these little nuts that receive the wing, okay? So that's what you're probably thinking to yourself. If you're new to foamies, you're like, how do you make a foam plane strong enough to fly? How does it not just wave around? Well, what you're really buying is you're buying a precision design piece of foam that's been molded, and it meets up with things like carbon fiber, plastic, and then the plastic is wide and it bears a lot of mechanical load, and it spreads that out so it can be glued in with a jig. And then you have things like this to help brace. And by the time you're all said and done, you have a very strong and super well-designed plane will fly amazing because the wing loading is very low. So now, of course, like a balsa wood plane is gonna tend to be a little bit nicer in terms of its weight and wing loading. Look at this really nice spinner. Goes together super, super clean fit, high gloss finish. Got a little bit of texture here that's gonna receive the prop, and there'll be a single screw that goes in there, and then this is gonna go back onto the motor mount. Of course, this has a brushless motor. There is an adapter, I believe, that actually adapts to that. So this has a brushless motor, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Really nice tail design, look at that. We've got an adapter that's gonna get us control of the tail dragger wheel, which is how you control the plane on the ground. Look at this. Really nice, high quality reinforced mounts. You got nuts that are molded in there. Pinch hinge is maybe a little bit inferior, but I think there might be. Let's look in the light. We always use this light, guys. Nope, it's just a pinch hinge. So a pinch hinge that's reinforced with glue or tape. I can't tell if there's anything in there. It looks like maybe glue. It's a glue reinforced pinch hinge. So what that means is when they mold this wing, then they come in and they pinch this, and it takes the compressed material and it squishes it down. Okay, so I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the idea is they cut away the material here and then they pinch this whole length. So that's where you get some of your mechanical strength. Now the secondary part is sometimes there'll be embedded hinges that will actually be stuck in here. And that's what they had on the 540 Edge. Okay, so that gives you a lot more strength. But you can also tell that there's different densities of foam. Like this is pretty sturdy. Now I'm not gonna break it. I could break it if I wanted to, but look how strong that is. It's actually quite sturdy. And the way they do that is they have this plastic that's reinforced, and it gives a lot of surface area. So they glue these different areas together, and it strengthens the vulnerable areas, the areas that are transmitting that mechanical movement there, okay? So that's really cool, and it's gonna be an easy assembly because all the parts are very simple. And here's the prop. Looks like we're getting down, we've got the horizontal stabilizer in there. That is a heavy prop. I'm surprised how heavy it is, in fact. Looks nice. It's not very long, so that's surprising. But of course, that's gonna go on through the spinner, and then this is gonna adapt around there. But I saw in the bag, there's our nut that's gonna hold it together. So we'll show you the entire process to get this plane built. It's gonna be a pretty quick one. Looks like we have a horizontal stabilizer, and then that might be everything. Okay, so looks like this one is also a pinch hinge, just to give you an idea of strength, a little bit of play there. And then of course, plastic that carries the left and right side of the elevator. So you can see I turn this and they stay perfectly aligned even when I'm turning from all the way down here. That's a good sign, because you're gonna be controlling it from one side, not both sides. That's actually a good thing. If you control from both sides, there's always linkage issues. They never seem to be quite right. And then this here, you can see there's no reinforcement that's going through the length of this, okay? So that's one of the things we like to show you here on unboxings. It seems a little bit strange. I know for some of you guys watching at home, you're like, why do you go through the entire unboxing? Who cares? Well, if you're buying this thing online sight unseen, and all you get is just pictures from, you know, Hobby Zone or from Arrows, of course they're gonna tell you it's great, but we're here to help you sift through the million choices that are between you and not flying, okay? We want you to buy this thing and be flying. And you can do it in the time it takes to charge. Now, you also note that we are charging this battery on the provided charger. Now, we could probably charge this a little bit quicker if we were to take this battery and plug it into a faster, more expensive charger. This is gonna charge, I think this one does up to like 500 watts and it's 2 channels. Whereas, I mean, we can do way faster on some of these, but we typically don't. So this is gonna take longer to charge. That's gonna be faster. But no matter which charger you use, like feel this, it's warm to the touch. Okay, so it's working, okay? Whatever you do with lithium polymer packs, which is, this is a flight pack or a Lipo, is do it on a hard surface, do it in a place where, you know, if something would go horribly wrong, you'd have a small fire, it's not gonna damage your house, it's just gonna be like a burn mark and you're gonna be kicked out of your kitchen forever. Or put it on like a cookie sheet or something like that, and that's gonna give you a little extra safety margins. We've never, and I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of Lipos. We have never had a fire, ever, for any reason, but we have had fires in airplanes because I did things that were stupid when I was first learning, like continuing to run the motor when you hit the ground with the prop. And I had one electronic speed controller catch into flames, but then it burned for about 1 second and went right out.
And we also charge, I mean, we're out here in the kitchen or in the family room or whatever.
Do it
so
when
we are around.
You have to do it when you're around for safety. Okay, so that's everything out of the box. Yep. So ordinarily at this point we would clean up, but Megan brings up a very good point. Megan, the camera crew, my wife, brings up a great point about Lipo safety, and that is, especially if you're new to flying, you want to always make sure that you're charging the battery while you're around in close proximity. If something would go wrong, you want to be able to deal with it, obviously. So there's 2 dangers in this hobby that we realistically face, and that is Lipo safety and people cutting their hands on props. I know it sounds ridiculous. Well, don't people hit themselves in the head with planes? Probably, but the thing is, it's like a giant foam thing. You know, like, people just realistically don't get injured that way. It's just statistically, it's an anomaly if it happens to you. So you tried hard. But what I'm saying is, the 2 things you really want to watch for is prop clearance, prop safety. People end up cutting their hands, and then people end up doing stupid things with batteries. Now, what is stupid with batteries? What's stupid with batteries is charging a battery when it's hot, charging a battery to where it starts puffing up and getting round. And I could show you examples of what a round battery looks like. But really, when they're new and very well maintained, they're gonna stay generally square like this. And then the more beat up they get, they're gonna start to puff up when they discharge too fast. And discharging too fast is a common habit of new pilots, because you're gonna be like, throttle all the way, oh my goodness, I don't want the thing to stall, which is when it falls out of the air, okay? So you're gonna tend to wanna discharge your packs too fast. So the higher quality packs you get are gonna have a higher C rating, okay, so 25C. That speaks to the speed by which you can discharge, and I usually look at it as a whole number, like 2.5 times 2200. So you could charge that, you could discharge at like 5 amps for a sustained, you know, more than just a burst. Okay, I wouldn't recommend doing that. It would be a little bit fast. And the other thing is, this plane will not demand that much comes out at once, okay? Because you're just not gonna load the circuit enough to do that. So these ready to fly planes take some of this into consideration, but you as a pilot are responsible to fly in a manner that's within the specs of the aircraft. So just keep that in mind. And you can see the specs right here on the box. These are things, you will not know most of this stuff when you first start. You're gonna learn it as you work through the process. And there is a lot to learn, by the way. A good pilot's always learning, okay? So 1600 millimeters long. We already talked about the 1300 millimeter wingspan. And then the all-up weight is 1,310 grams. So if it's over 250 grams and you're flying it outdoors, you got to do the know before you fly if you want to be within compliance with the federal aviation. Don't fly around airports generally. You know, fly within a club, do these different things, follow the rules. Generally speaking, we don't talk about that because rules are always changing. We don't know what they're going to be by the time you see this. So just look into it yourself. Follow the rules to your taste. It's up to you. Be careful. Try not to hurt people, obviously. Don't hurt yourself. Motor size, this is 35-36, which means 35 millimeters by 36 millimeters. And it's the KV is the It's not kilovolts. It is the 1,000 rotations per volt, and that's 850. So that means that if you're at 11.1 volts nominal, you're gonna be 11.1. So let's just call it 11 times 850 revolutions per volt. Okay, so you see how that says? 850 times 11. That's how you figure that. That is not kilovolts, even though it looks like it's kilovolts. Kilovolts would be lowercase k and then uppercase V. So these are the types of things you learn on Brian Phillips RC. My wife is learning some new things today. The electronic speed control, ESC, is 30 amps. The servos are 9-gram servos. There's 6 of them. 2 for the ailerons, 2 for the flaps, 1 for the rudder, 1 for the elevator. And then the radio is a 6-channel, and the center of gravity is listed here from 60 to 70 millimeters from the front of the leading edge. We'll talk about that as we build. And then the prop size is 11.7, and it's 2 blades, okay? And then the recommended battery, of course, is a 3S 2200 25C. That is a very popular size. We have been flying on 2200 3S for years, and it is a super popular size. So if you get into this plane, you'll be able to use it potentially on other planes, which is another good way when you're getting into a ready to fly that you can help hold down your cost as you figure out and evaluate whether or not this is something this is gonna be. We believe you're gonna get hooked no matter what, but only if you make a good decision on a plane like this and you get something that's gonna get you in the air, it's gonna get you flying, and it's gonna keep you flying, which is one of the big things we do here on Brian Phillips RC is we take you into planes that are not gonna make you a one and done. We call them one and dones. And back in the day, you used to spend 6 months building this balsa wood beauty, and then you take it up and immediately crash. And I'm talking within seconds. And you're like, I am never doing that again, which I totally get. So we're trying to help avoid one and dones, and that's why we bring you choices like this that are gonna get you ready. We're gonna clean up and come right back. Stay tuned for the build. Okay, so YouTube, I failed to mention earlier when we started this process that when we do a ready to fly plane, we try to dive into the details a little bit more than usual. And we already tend to be a little bit wordy on that anyway. So my apologies. A couple things that don't come with this plane, even though it's a ready to fly, they're not necessarily optional. You need a Phillips screwdriver. The good thing is, like, if you're in this hobby, you have a Phillips screwdriver. We are gonna opt to use a 2mm driver just because it's easier, but it does come with that. Okay, so it does come with it, but we're gonna use our driver. And then it doesn't come with any glue. So you can use CA or you can use foam to foam or China glue. China glue is just basically like, it's a contact cement, and sometimes it comes in unmarked white tubes, look like toothpaste. You would not wanna use it for toothpaste. It would be bad. So we use this. We have links to stuff like this in our video description. If you don't know where to get it, we can answer. If you ask in the comments, we'll try to help direct you to where to get that sort of thing. And I think this is really the only thing you have to glue. Yeah. So you may opt to just stick the antenna in without glue and just kind of throw caution to the wind. I wouldn't recommend it because it'll probably blow off. But just full disclosure there. And then also, in our case, we forgot to grab the side cutters. You wouldn't have to use side cutters. You might be able to get away with scissors, but I'm gonna recommend side cutters. And these are gonna be to cut these wires here. There's a little extra bundle of wire there, so you just gotta cut that and carefully make sure you don't cut your wire like I just about did there. I got close to it, but I didn't. Oh my goodness, wow, I really did do a number on that. So if you would happen to cut that wire, that would be a problem. Oh, it's actually the zip tie pushed into the wire, it looks like. So yeah, be careful with that, and we'll talk about those wires. As we do ready to fly planes, we try to show, if you weren't already aware with what we do on the channel, we show things that are bind and fly, plug and fly, ARF plus, ARFs, we've done a couple of ARFs, but we generally stay away from the ARFs. We just don't have time for that sort of project. ARF plus meaning almost ready to fly with, like, you know, maybe some of the stuff done. So it's kind of a middle ground. ARFs are basically you get like 200 pieces, you got to put it together, or you might actually only get like 100 of them, and you got to buy a bunch of other stuff to put motors in and things like this. This is ready to fly, where you have almost everything. It's like plug and fly as far as it can be taken, but you still, I mean, you can't send a box with the plane fully assembled in a plane this size class. It just wouldn't make sense. So that's why you have to assemble some stuff. But you can get small planes like these right here, or like this. They'd be mostly assembled. I think we had to put like the vertical stabilizers on this. I mean, sometimes even helicopters, you have to put the rotors on. Planes like this would be fully assembled. So there's a million different choices in the hobby. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to answer the questions as we think you might have them. So please do leave questions in the comments below. We don't leave you high and dry like most of the other channels on YouTube. We actually try to reply to comments, but I usually reply to the first one. And the reason I reply to the first one is because I literally could not physically, humanly reply to every back and forth. Now, once in a while, we'll get involved in a back and forth, and that works fine. But generally speaking, ask what you need. I'll try to answer everything on the first comment. And if I don't hit it, just ask a new question and do it as a new comment. Don't just reply.
Yeah.
We
don't always see replies, just from our side.
Yeah.
We see the new stuff.
Because we filter, response status is what we use for our filtering.
Yeah.
Okay, and I didn't talk about this earlier. There is a nice spring-loaded release here, and that's how you get inside of here. Okay, so that's where the battery's gonna go. And they do provide some Velcro in there, which is really cool. And then a Velcro strap. This is pretty standard. Looks like it's the medium grade. We haven't seen any straps from Aeros that are really light duty. And ironically enough, we've seen it from some of the bigger, more the competitive but much larger companies. So that's a little bit strange. So, and look, this even has a little piece of plastic to receive that. You see that? It doesn't gouge into your foam, which is really nice. So this plane stand is another thing that you wouldn't have to have. We used to use basically a blanket, and then I put a hole in it with a P51. And so then I was forbidden from using it for like a couple of days. And then she was like, no, we need to use it. So if you use that, I wouldn't recommend putting holes in them because you will lose privileges from your spouse. Okay, so we're gonna build this thing right now. I'll show you just how easy it is. Please forgive us if we're going into more detail than you need, because there's people that need help. And they just honestly don't know a lot of the stuff we talk about. So where do we start, camera crew? Let's talk about where we figured out how to start.
So there's also more information on the Vector and the controller in here, but then this is the actual assembly manual.
Okay, so we do go through the manual sometimes off camera just so we can familiarize ourselves with it a little bit. The camera crew is mostly good at reading instructions, and I'm mostly good at ignoring them. So this thing goes here. These are the landing gear, of course. Bogey, wheel, okay, wheel, tire. This is the wheel and tire assembly in this case. This is gonna drop down into the plastic. And then do you have my screws? Good. And then this little plastic thing actually goes down just like this. Now you can't put it in wrong. It's only gonna fit one way. And then these three machine screws are 2mm drive.
And they're the shorter of the ones
shorter of
that
the two.
came with it.
Yep. Now we go through the entire build and then radio setup if it's applicable, or radio setup if there is no build. And we do this on a regular basis for pretty much everything we review. And then every once in a blue moon, we'll have like a 36-hour build and we time lapse it, because literally we would not be able to, our marriage would not survive an entire, right?
No.
It'd be over.
We're not doing that again, are we?
Well, I mean, there is another one. I have 36 hours, I hope not. But anyway, the time lapse is not something that's gonna be a regular part of our build series. Okay, so you see this? Nice smooth, really nice finish. Close match on the colors, maybe not perfect. Simulated exhaust here, that's really cool. That makes it a little easier to work, because then all of a sudden you got some weight down there. Now I just noticed this might be magnetic. Nope, it just feels like it's glued. Looks like there's 2 screws here, so you have some serviceability to get to the motor and motor mounts and things like this. Now, if you have questions that come up in specific to this model, okay, what are we supposed to do? Vertical stabilizer and horizontal stabilizer next?
Yeah, we can do that next.
Okay, so the horizontal stabilizer is, of course, this thing. The elevator is attached to the horizontal stabilizer, and so we can just slip this in here. It's a very, very obvious fit. And then this is the vertical stabilizer and rudder. Okay, the rudder is the part that moves. That's what yaws the airplane. This is double-sided tape that comes with the model, and it goes right there. Okay. Now you don't need to land those wires that you see going by. They're already installed on the servos and they're already wired. So you don't even have to land the wires. Now I will be honest with you, doing a plug and fly for a first plane would not be the best choice. So this is not a plug and fly, it's a ready to fly. If you're in a situation where you're offered to do a plug and fly or you really, really think you like a plug and fly, you can follow through our instructions to do it. But I would highly recommend against it. Get her ready to fly, figure out if you're gonna like it, and then go from there. Okay, so this is gonna need to be manipulated to get down. Then once you drop this tip in, you drop it down and see what I'm doing? Look at this landing gear. That needs to be twisted to allow you to drop it down. Okay, it's pretty simple stuff. Then when your rudder moves, it moves your steerable tail wheel. Pretty cool. Okay, simple is great on airplanes, okay? I mean, even real airplanes, there's a lot of simplicity in things that you think might be really complicated. Okay, 2 screws. These are gonna be the longer ones, correct?
Yeah, because that's what we've got left.
Okay.
Do you want to look at the...
There's a ton of them though. Oh. They say 26 millimeters. These are 26 millimeters.
And then smaller ones for the...
This is why we don't like folded manuals, people. If you see this, this is super annoying. We hate folded manuals. Okay, these are 10, these are 26. So the shorter ones are 10s. Just, these are 10s, these are 26. The 26 are longer, so 26 millimeters speaks to this, okay? And then you're saying there's also a set screw from the side.
Which might be...
And those are Phillips.
The Phillips one.
Okay, so these are dropping in here. Super easy, no alignment issues whatsoever. Just drop them in. This is all plastic to plastic. It's basically a jig that goes around the foam. And you just tighten it, and there will be a distinct point when you will hear the plastic start to crush, or you'll bottom out or whatever, okay? So we're just gonna get that going. Now, if you don't have alignment just quite right, then you may have to manipulate. You see how I'm doing this? I am moving until I feel it drop, okay? And by the way, okay, so now you can see I'm really torquing it hard, okay? So that's tight. And don't worry guys, do not use Loctite on here unless you're specifically instructed to do so in the instruction manuals. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why would you not do Loctite? Don't you want things to stay together? Yes, but Loctite will eat the plastic. It will actually make the solvent that carries Loctite from the tube and keeps it liquid until it goes in and gets exposed to air and starts reacting chemically. That stuff will eat the plastic and it will deteriorate and then it will crack. And it will crack faster than you think. So don't use Loctite unless you're metal to metal. And if you're metal to metal and you think you might spill onto foam or plastic, don't do it. It's not worth it. And you don't need it. These things won't come undone. I got hundreds of planes.
Yep.
And they will be totally fine. You might have to tighten a screw like twice on a plane that you use all the time.
Yeah. Do you want to put those control rods on now, even though we're not going to hook them up?
Yeah, let's put them on, but let's not hook them up. Now, why would we not hook these up, camera crew?
Because we want to...
Where are we putting them? What holes?
Oh.
Let's look at the manual for that. They're going to suggest where we put these control rods. These are the rods that are going to push from the end of the servo to the control surface. You'll note that these things have kind of a distinct bend to the left or to the right. That's just the way they're manufactured. You can sort of straighten them if you want, but I generally just leave them bent one way or the other, and then I use that to our advantage when we're assembling. We also have screws that we need to do here. Those side screws we didn't do yet. Let's go ahead and get those right now. I think it's just one that we have to do, by the way, camera crew. Okay, so guys, where we're going with this is a Phillips tip, okay? Got that on there. And this is gonna go sideways like this. And that's basically gonna lock this assembly in so it can't play up and down. Okay, is there one on both sides? Nope, it's just one. You see what's going on? Show them from above. Do you see where that screw's going? Okay, so it just goes across and bridges, and then it traps the landing gear. So when you have a rough landing or something, it doesn't pop out. Feels like it's bottomed out. Of course, I've got an extra screw between my fingers. They do send some extra screws on these planes, but it's not like every plane has extra screws, and the expectation should not be that there's gonna be extra screws. It feels like it's stopped. Did I like not hit the spot where it's supposed to be? See this, how it's backing off? I feel like it didn't go all the way. Oh my goodness. There it goes. Okay, good enough. So that's basically just gonna be an extra security measure. And then the next thing we were talking about doing was the control arms, but you never did tell me where to put them, so let's find that now. They're requiring CA, medium CA for that antenna, by the way. All right, so looks like they don't show it here in great detail. They'll show it somewhere else though. If they don't show it in great detail, then you err on the side of going to the outside. Okay, right here. So where are we putting them?
Inside, what are we doing first?
The rudder and elevator.
So outside hole to outside hole?
It's the outside hole on both. Yep. So basically what that means is that when you put these control arms on, you need to basically find the outside hole, which is gonna be the most amount of throw, meaning if you go from this point, you have a longer arm movement. Okay, so it looks like you just slide it like this, and then it's gonna go to the outside hole, which is gonna give you the least amount of movement, but the most precision. Okay, so you're gonna be more precise in your placement of the elevator, but you're not gonna be able to affect the pitch of the plane as quick, okay? And if you were to go to the inside hole, you would impact the pitch of the aircraft faster, okay? And more. So stick all the way back, all things considered. If you're on the outside hole, you're gonna have significantly less output. If you're on the middle hole, you're gonna have a little bit more, and on the inside hole, you're gonna have the most. So if you want more pitch authority, then you can go to the inside hole, but you may oscillate the plane because the stabilizer may overcorrect and induce an oscillation, okay? The way you fix that is back off your throttle, slow down a little bit, land, put it from the inside hole to the next hole out. Or better yet, you have another way of doing it right here. You can also take it and leave it on the inside hole, and then you can move it to the next hole in on your servo arm. That would do the opposite. So as you go closer to the inside, you'll have more precision and less output, okay? Keep in mind, you also have not an unlimited amount of torque. So we are gonna go by spec on this, okay? All the way to the inside, or excuse me, all the way on the outside, which is what they called for. And we're not even gonna snap that yet because we have to make sure this centers when we're done and we hook up the radio. Okay, so same thing over here. Boy, that clearance is super tight. Look at that. That's crazy. Right there.
Yeah.
It's pretty much touching. I wonder if that's by design. So far, this build's been pretty simple. These are O-rings, or not O-rings, that's a gas, like a fuel tube. And you see how that opens up? See how there's like a little round ball on the end of that plastic shaft? If you were to snap this, you'd be hard pressed to get it undone. So the only way you can usually do it is put a flat bladed screwdriver and pop it open again. So don't do that because you'll probably break that little tip off. Okay, so we're just gonna do it like this for now, and then we will screw this in or out to center the control surface before we take our maiden flight. But we just want them in there so that when we set up the radio, we'll have movement and we can show you how it looks. Okay, so continuing onward with the build, as we mentioned earlier and warned you, we're gonna go into more detail than we would ordinarily do. And that's to help people that are new to the hobby. This is a ready to fly after all. So it does make sense that people buying a ready to fly might not know all that there is to know. Also, tail draggers, I wouldn't say are especially difficult to fly compared to a non-tail dragger, which would be like a tricycle where there's a nose like this plane over here. These, actually, all the planes on that table are tricycles. Okay, so they lean forward. This is a tail dragger, it's gonna lean back, okay? There are some disadvantage is when you give throttle, it's gonna lift the tail, and then you can taxi around with the tail up, or you can taxi with the tail down. And then when you go to take off, you just have to be careful not to run the prop into the ground. That's a prop strike, and it would cause problems for you. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is basically get the wing prepared to attach, correct? Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, we already stuffed this rod in here just as part of the Unbox series, or the Unbox period. So that just goes in there. If you have trouble getting that into the hole, you can take this out to a concrete surface and run it on the concrete and just kind of buff it down, or sandpaper. And then that just slides into the hole, and you see it's really, really easy. It's so easy it'll fall out. This is either fiberglass or carbon fiber. I'm pretty sure that's fiberglass. If it was carbon fiber, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's fiberglass. If it was carbon fiber, it'd be lighter, and it would make more of like a metal noise. It would sound almost like metal. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So we'll just take these two halves, and we did take the tape off camera on the tips of these things. And then we'll just find the other half of the wing. We'll just slip it together, okay? Now again, this build, you could probably do it in 5 minutes if you were off camera. And, you know, to like a skill builder. Okay, so no glue. You don't have to glue that. That's pretty good size too. 1.3 meters is a good size plane. It's big enough that you can get it in a lot of vehicles, but it's small enough that you can, it's small enough to get in a vehicle, but it's big enough to still enjoy, and you can see it from a distance. Some people that have trouble with their eyesight, they really need a big plane. But if you get into like a 2 meter or 2.1 meter plane, they are huge. I mean, you have to take probably the horizontal stabilizer off to get it in some cars. We have a 2011 Traverse, and we can fit a lot of planes in there, and we will take bean bags and lay them on the ground, or we'll put a flat plane, you know, something with gear retracted. We'll lay that on the ground, then we'll put a bean bag on top of it. We'll throw another plane like this, maybe straddle it. And the idea is to keep them from rolling around while you're taking turns or accelerating and braking. But the idea is you get a plane like this, you can just throw it around, and you want to avoid the hanger rash from dings and things like this. Foam, you know, gets that. So you have to think about those things as you get ready to take your trip, okay? So let's look at this. We've got all these wires here. What do we do with all these wires? There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I need to hook them up now, right?
Well, yeah. So there's a bunch of wires in here, and I'm gonna take it off of the stand because the stand is not really helping us anymore. So we'll just lay the stand off to the side, which, by the way, Tom sent us that. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate that. It's a heartfelt thanks from our family to yours. So looks like we've got the cables down here, but look at that. That is gonna be pretty hard to plug in. Goodness gracious. You see where they are? They're not quite long enough to reach very easy. So I think I'm gonna use forceps for this. I wouldn't recommend trying to do this without maybe needle nose pliers or forceps. Forceps, of course, are hemostats, if you're familiar with the terminology. It makes it so much easier. And these things can be purchased for inexpensive, whether it be Amazon or whatever. We do have some links to a hemostat kit, but I think I got these at Menards. So, and they were maybe like $7 or $8. So, I mean, it's more than a screwdriver, but you would not believe how much this makes life easy. Because like, look at this. I have to grab in here and grab the flaps. Oh, look at this. I can just grab this whole receiver for the flaps. Okay, so this is gonna basically go. Do we have a wing joiner of some sort? No, we don't. Okay.
Do not. Do you want me to hold?
Yeah, hold that with one hand if you can. Okay, and then the flaps are here, and they are indicated, and here. Now, it doesn't matter which one gets plugged into what port, or which terminal, any of that stuff, it doesn't matter, okay? Because these ones, you do have to get the colors lined up properly. So I'm gonna slide that label back. You'd see there's signal is orange, plus voltage is red, and then brown is your negative or ground, okay? Same thing over here, or DC return path for current. See how those are lined up the same? So now this is a Y splitter, a servo signal splitter. And that's just gonna go in here. And so that means that these two are gonna actuate. And you'll notice they're the same direction. They're both laying on their side with the control horn to the right. That means when they actuate, they'll actuate in the same direction, whereas the ailerons are actuating in opposite directions, because that's what we're gonna use to roll the aircraft. Pitch is up and down, roll is rolling, and then yaw is the lateral movement on a flat plane. Okay. So then you just kind of line these up. It's pretty obvious stuff. See color for color, brown to brown, and those are retention clips. So if you go to pull on them, they won't come undone, but you can just quickly release those by pulling those two things apart, and that'll allow you to unplug your servo lead. But I'm not gonna unplug it because I don't want to unplug it. Okay, then we have these two lines. These are the LEDs because there's only 2 wires, and those ones can be plugged in to something somewhere. There they are. There's a little controller right here. Got to be careful that doesn't take off on us here, camera crew. I'm going to chalk the wheel with my other pair of forceps. All right, so this is the LED controller, it looks like. And I believe this is where we're going to plug them in. Now, how do we know which one's which? We don't. We're just going to plug them in. Okay, and we'll just go color for color, presuming that that's correct. We really don't know, and it's not a big deal. If it's backward, the LED won't work, but it's probably not going to catch on fire. The key is probably. See this? If you're in any doubt, you can tape these with clear tape or electrical tape or some glue if you prefer. I'm just going to do cable management by process of elimination, and that just means that the cables are going to land and get tangled how they get tangled, but I want to kind of give some suggestions. Okay, so then these are the ailerons. So camera crew, lift up your thumb. There you go, hold that down. All right, so now I need to try to find the aileron leads. I don't know where they are, because ordinarily that would come out of the vector. Actually, the elevator should be already landed, so we don't even have to land that. You see this here? Mm-hmm. That is the ailerons.
Oh man.
So yeah, that's gonna suck to plug in. Mm-hmm. Okay, let go.
For both?
Yeah, well there's 2 ailerons, so we're gonna have to plug both of them in. So I'm gonna grab this with 1 pair of forceps, and I'm gonna just do my best to show you what I'm doing here. Basically, I'm gonna grab as low down, and I'm gonna put brown to brown, and I'm gonna put orange to orange, and then we're gonna keep this wing out of harm's way. Okay, so that's plugged in. Now we need to let go of that one. We're gonna grab this one, untangle it from the mess. Then we have to go in here and get the other half of that equation, which is right here. Nope, I lied. That's just where they're pulling power for our, oh, there it is. Nope, that's not it. Why are we pulling power from 2 different places for that? It's tangled now because I did a bad job of picking. Ah, there it is. I don't know if you can see that, camera crew.
No.
Okay. You can't?
I cannot.
You can't see?
No.
Or you can't see where it was?
I can't see where it was. Your left hand is in the way.
Okay, so the brown is toward my belly, so I'm just gonna put the brown to brown. If you can help me stop that from rolling, I'd be, I appreciate it. I don't know if you're gonna be able to do it though. Okay, so we have those landed. You can see that the forceps, the forceps are an invaluable tool. Mm-hmm. We use them a lot. You could use needle nose pliers, but they won't work near as good. And if you drop them, it's going to be a lot more devastating to the foam. Mm-hmm. Okay, let go.
Okay.
So now I'm pushing this in. I want to get that antenna inside and just make sure it's somewhat protected. So it's up and inside here. Now these wires can just be, see what I'm doing with this? If you drop this down like that, it does make it slightly easier to reach the cables, but then I'm just gonna spin this over and push them right back together, okay? Drop down these wing struts all the way outside, and then you can grab this and tuck it down in. See how that's tucking down in? There's no control, there's no controls inside that cavity down there, so you don't have to worry about hitting the elevator or rudder, because the linkages would normally come from up here. Well, on this plane, they're back here on the tail. Do you want to show them? See what I'm talking about? So you don't have to worry about the linkages getting tied up with those wires. All right, so the next step, I think we should probably look at these wing struts. The wing struts just drop into place. like that. And then the wing strut here, whoops. Make sure your cables don't get pinched if that pops off on you like it did on me. You know what? The screw we used for the tail, I feel like there should be, you know what? I wonder if we used the wrong type of screw on that.
Nope, the wing struts are those little clips.
Oh, the clips. Oh, okay. Yeah, these clips were terrible the last time we used them.
Yeah, sorry.
So normally I would say do this now, but we need to get these screws started first because these are hard to get started. The clips are hard to get started, but these screws are super easy to do. So they're long 26 millimeters and 2 millimeter drive. So you should just be able to drop that in there. Oh, okay, definitely biting. I'm gonna go through and tighten them all once I get them started. Yep, did you hear that noise? I had to pull the wing in a little bit. Now, if you're in any doubt, that one went in kind of hard. So we just happen to do this in our kitchen. So I'm gonna put a little dish detergent, which is Dawn. Just like this. Just a little teeny bit, that's a lot actually. That's a ton. But I'm gonna just kind of put that on there as though it were Loctite. You remember how we said don't use Loctite? This is like the antithesis of Loctite. And it's also not gonna eat the plastic because Dawn is pretty much gonna be pH balanced for this sort of thing. So what that does is it helps lubricate the threads and you see it's not squeaking. Now listen to this, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back that back off. I'm gonna flip the plane over and let it fall out just into my hand. And I'm gonna show you the difference that little bit of lubrication makes. It's pretty huge actually. Okay, so we got a little bit on the tip, dip the tip. And then watch this. Remember how squealy it was? You hear? Nothing. So makes your life easier and you'll have an easier time getting that torque down. And yes, I am turning that a lot. And yes, it is kind of hard to turn, so. But even with that lubricant. So imagine if we wouldn't have lubed the tip.
Yeah.
We'd have been really, really ramming it in there dry.
Yeah.
So, see what's happening here? You can tell I've got it tight because I'm squishing the foam all around, okay? I usually don't want to go quite that tight. I want to back off just a hair. See how it's starting to crush the foam? That's how you can tell you're tight. Didn't need hardly any turns at all on the back. Oh my goodness. So in this one, oh, it's going in okay. So I don't need to lubricate it. There's a little bit of squeal, but it's fine. So now watch for the stretch marks around here. You're tight. Okay, so now, first of all, that thing looks sweet. I'm really excited. Cessna 150 model, basically, I think is what this is modeled after. And I like the Cessna 150, so I'm excited to see this. I love flying Cessnas. I love flying tail draggers. I love flying STOL aircraft. It's just right up my alley. So you can see these aren't lined up perfectly on both sides. They're lined up on this side, so we're gonna start there. And these things, you're like, how are you gonna stretch that thing on there? Exactly. That's part of our problem. I'm gonna get a pair of needle nose pliers for this step.
Okay.
We're trying to kind of keep the tool count down, but it looks like so far to kind of make things easier, we're gonna use more tools than you might have to use. These things are notoriously challenging to get started the first time. You have to let me know if it doesn't come into focus while I'm doing that. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this really sturdy and see if I can, yeah, that's not gonna work. See, the problem is you have to open it up so much to actually get it to go in. And this is probably gonna be the worst part of this build. Everything has gone super smooth, super easy. See what I'm talking about, guys? You gotta like bend it so much. And you see what I just did there?
Did you hit it?
Yeah, I stabbed my plane. Okay guys, learn from my mistake. Don't stab your plane, okay? So that's why I hate those clips. And also this side is opened up so it's actually pulled away a little bit. You see that where my index finger's pointing? Okay, there's a gap. So we're gonna have to depress the wing down to get that gap to close. So here's what I'm gonna do to combat my problem that I just made. I'm gonna hold on to this in a different way and I'm gonna stretch this out a little bit. I'm gonna pre-stretch that just a hair. And then I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna see if I can do it from above. It might be easier to get in. Yeah, way easier. Way, way, way easier. And still super effective. Okay, now this side, you may not wanna totally stretch it as much as I am, but I just don't wanna fight it. Okay. So I'm gonna actually spin that around so it's kind of held in there the other direction. And then camera crew, can you press down on that just a little bit? Mm-hmm. More. Okay, got it. Okay, you can let go. See how much easier that was when you stretch them out? That is a nice flat wing. You'll notice there's not a lot of dihedral. Dihedral would be like when this wing goes up and then this wing goes up as well. This is a flat wing. Typically dihedral helps to keep the plane leveled, but with the vector stabilizer, you can also go into a mode will automatically level the aircraft when you let go of the sticks. That is not normal, by the way. If you're new to flying radio controlled aircraft, when you let go of the sticks, the plane goes. So you have to actively control it. Okay, so let's look at the different pieces for the spinner and nose cone, and then we're gonna jump into radio setup stuff. Okay, so here we go. So this, got some foam in there. This is gonna slip back all the way until it locks onto the nut. Okay, so it's gonna go just all the way back until it locks on, just like that. Nice tight clearance. Then this is gonna slide back. It's gonna get bit. Then this is gonna go on. Okay, so then we hold the prop and we stick something in like this and we torque it down like this until it's tight, okay? Then we can take the rest of the spinner and slip it over the top. Woo!
There should be one of the short screws.
The short ones?
Short one left.
Really? It's not the long one?
I think it said the 10 millimeter.
Well, does it say?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about the alarms and stuff that we read about? Yeah, 10 millimeters, not 26. They're usually long screws on these. I guess this thing sticks out pretty far, so.
In the manual for the transmitter that comes with this, when you turn it on.
You see what I'm doing? Show them what I'm doing. I'm chalking the wheels because it wants to roll away from me every time I touch it.
The transmitter will alarm or beep every minute to help you keep track of your time.
Oh, pause for a sec.
Yep.
Do not over tighten this. You will break the spinner if you over tighten it. I made the mistake of doing that on my extra 540 when I broke my beautiful wood prop, and then I broke that. And I was rather annoyed at myself. So I had to get a special washer and then glue, and it was just a really stupid way of fixing it. But I did get it fixed, and I went and flew it, and it was awesome. So anyway, I'm sorry. So every 1 minute, it's gonna beep.
Yep, and then there should be a low voltage. Sweet. Yeah, that looks really nice. A low voltage that will alarm. And then I believe the status light will change color. So it looks like you should have some indication of voltage while you're flying.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
You don't normally get that
Yep.
on a inexpensive plane. Okay, so talking about antennas, one thing to keep in mind before you glue this in is, first of all, will it go without glue? Yes, but it's gonna fall out real easy. Some of these antennas will stick in with enough pressure that it gets the job done. The other trick you can do that works really nice is you can take a little bit of tape. I'm just gonna share this trick. You don't have to obviously do it this way. You can just glue it in. I'm gonna take a tape about 1.5 inches long, inch, something like that. And I'm just gonna stick it on there. And I'm gonna fold it around. And I just wanna show you this trick, because this is a nice trick if you got ready to fly and you have to transport. So it's like 1.5 thick. Watch this. Look at that. Okay, so now, when you forget about that thing and you go upside down in your car like this, then you're like, oh crap. Instead of, I just ripped a hole in my plane. Yeah. So now it's not a big deal. You can just glue the thing in too, but it just depends on your taste and what type of automobile you're gonna be carrying these things around in. But that's the way I'm gonna do it.
And if you don't have like foam to foam or something, or CA, if you really aren't new,
I'm gonna do one more piece.
you can do that too.
That's probably gonna be too much.
Could you use like rubber cement or something if you don't have.
What do you think mucilage is?
Well, that's what I'm asking. If
That's
people
what
are
foam
like,
to foam.
I don't have
foam
that
to foam
stuff.
is basically a contact cement. The problem with foam is that foam will get eaten by the solvents in a lot of different types of glue. So if you have a rubber cement, like the camera crew just mentioned, oh yeah, that's tight now. It's good. So we don't need any glue at all. If you use the wrong type of glue on foam, you'll melt it because it will chemically react. And so that's one thing you got to watch out for. Now, I don't know if this one would chemically react, but CA, cyanoacrylate, which is super glue, then there's other products that will speed up the process called accelerant, and you will put two things together, a little accelerant, and I mean, it is immediate. Whereas this stuff, you have to put it on and then you kind of like stick the parts together, pull them apart, let it sit and cook off, and it'll get stinky. You can smell it, and then you stick it back together. You're not supposed to smell this stuff. Well-ventilated areas. You can smell the chemical reaction wearing off. That's what I mean by smell it, not like enjoy the smell. Although it is enjoyable. So, all right, so the next thing we gotta do is we gotta do a little bit of radio setup. And when I say radio setup, let's go ahead and get the batteries in here first. So generally speaking with aircraft, you wanna have, oh my goodness, this thing, a little challenging to open.
Yeah, I left that for you to open.
Okay, so generally you've got power first and then power, but it depends on the binding procedure on a ready to fly, okay? Binding meaning that nowadays, back in the days, we used to have crystals, and you would just have a matching pair of crystals, and the oscillation would be at a certain frequency, and then they would only communicate with each other and any CB antennas that were broadcasting at that same range, and people would like be, oh, I'm gonna make him crash, and then they would crash, which is terrible. Why would anybody ever do that? But yes, it did happen.
Were
Okay,
they like
now
actual little crystals?
No, okay, I'm not gonna entertain that one right now.
Oh.
High throttle warning, okay?
Oh.
So power's off. We're gonna come back to that. So you guys saw the way I did it. The flat goes against the spring on each of these. These are AA batteries, the world's cheapest and crappiest.
Yes.
Okay? We get like 400 at a time when we buy these because we burn through batteries like anybody. You've never seen how many batteries we burn through. So anyway, continuing onward, to answer your question, the crystals, crystal is an oscillator, which is a circuit, and it comes in a small little package, and you excite it with voltage, and then it oscillates, oscillation, and it oscillates at a different frequency.
That's so weird.
Yeah, that's what it does. So it's like a pulse counter. Just makes a wave. Okay, so it's a pulse generator.
I believe you.
That's what a crystal is. Now you know. And the crystals were matching, so they would go at the same frequency. And when the frequency matched, then the controls would carry through across the pulse width modulation on this side. Okay, that's more than you need to know from a ready to fly aircraft. But anyway, nowadays we have 2.4 gigahertz. So we operate within a range from here to here, and there's specific addresses that are allowed within that bandwidth, and we have frequency hopping and different sorts of ways to prevent having two people on the same channel at the same time and having mid-air collisions and stupid things as a result, or maybe loss of control, things like that. So there's so much more technology in the radio systems now than there were. Like this, the technology inside of this would have cost you $1,000 20 years ago. And that is not an exaggeration. It would have cost probably more than $1,000 20 years ago. Maybe not 20 years ago. Maybe 30 years ago, you've been using reed control. Up, down, like that's it. Up, down, there's no intermediate steps. Now it's fully discrete. You can move it a little bit, it goes a little bit. You move it a lot, it goes a lot. Okay, and that's true for all of the channels, even though these are 3 position and 3 position. You could take that out and put another gimbal, and it would be a full, minus 100 plus 100. Okay. You ready? You ready to start this?
Yeah.
So we have a battery that goes in here, and that's how we energize the plane. But we got to read about binding procedures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on. Because it's a ready to fly, we probably don't have to bind, okay? But when I say bind, that's when you teach the receiver what the transmitter that's gonna be the master, okay? So ordinarily we would use a Spectrum NX8, which is kind of my transmitter of choice. And I've used a bunch of different varieties, and we show the full-blown radio setup on something like this, which is a computerized transmitter. Of course, it's more sophisticated and quite a bit more expensive, and it weighs about 3 times as much. And you know, the list goes on. But it's also quite expensive. You could buy a couple ready-to-fly planes, or at least one good one for the price of something like this. So if you're new to the hobby and you're watching a video about ready-to-fly aircraft, my guess is you probably are going to be using something like this for your first couple of planes. And that's a perfectly suitable choice to make. I agree with that choice. I think you should. And that's coming from somebody that has lots of different planes, like hundreds and hundreds of planes, okay? So I'm going to unplug this. It is not fully charged, by the way. For full disclosure, it's warm, but not hot. Like I can hold this, it doesn't hurt. If it hurts, it's 150 degrees or more, typically surface temperature. Okay, so this battery will be used to plug into this thing right here, which I have to grab my lead out of the airplane because I haven't pulled it forward yet. So this is an XT60 male, and this is an XT60 female. And you're like, but wait, hold on, I thought that thing was a male. No, that thing is the female. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You always speak to the copper or the connector, which in this case is not actually copper, it's an alloy of gold, okay? So you've got a connector, those are sockets, hence female. There's pins, hence male, okay? I don't wanna get into political discussions here, but yes, that's the way it works. Okay, so we're gonna pull this Velcro off here.
That must be your minute beep, I wonder.
Yeah, that's my minute beeps. Okay, so we got Velcro. That is included with this plane. Now you could take off and address that by sticking that on there. But what I like to do is I use a shelf liner, and it's super easy. Then you don't have a bunch of batteries with a bunch of weird stuff on them. But since this is a ready to fly, we're gonna be nice. Now what happens when you put a battery? This is totally smooth, okay? If you lay it on a shelf liner, I mean, like you could break the battery, okay? You could push hard enough, okay? So shelf liner costs, you know, a couple bucks at the store. You don't even need to do that. You can just use the provided Velcro. If you are gonna use Velcro, I'm gonna caution you. As soon as you commit to this side, the next plane, you're gonna need it on the other side. Yep. That's what I've learned. That's why I stopped using Velcro on planes a long time ago. But for the sake of this, we're gonna use it. Here's the trick of the day. Use a pair of scissors. Now we're up to scissors too. This is like the 14th tool. What's going on here?
Most people have scissors.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just cut it in half. And then we're gonna stick this on here over the warnings because we know the warnings.
Okay.
We know the warning signs. First, there's 3. Then there's 40. Then there's 200. Then there's more. That's the warning signs.
Yep.
Of hoarding airplanes. That's why you're here, because you have a problem just like me, okay? And if your problem isn't as advanced as mine, then just give it a few years. Yeah. Don't worry, you don't just need one high wing and one low wing, one trainer and one jet.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, that's what I honestly thought. That was so dumb. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I don't want to insult people that are new to the hobby. You keep thinking that.
Yeah.
Just come back and watch more videos. There's only like, I don't know, 1,700 videos or something. I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So now we're gonna stick this in here. Just presumably we're gonna hit the perfect CG, the center of gravity, but my guess is we're not gonna be right. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get this battery strapped in here. Now this is probably not exactly where it's gonna end up, so we're not gonna get too bent out of shape about having it perfect. And then the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a minute here and talk about safety. Remember how I talked about cutting yourself up? This would be the time where you would not have your prop installed. But since we're not professionals, we are gonna not do that. So this is the time where you don't look at what we're doing and you say, that's dangerous. Now, we got to read about the bind and fly status of this because this is a ready to fly. It's the first ready to fly we've done for arrows. So in this case, the vector system has 3 stabilizer modes. We already know that stuff.
You need the other manual down there.
Oh, I do?
Yep, that's the one that came with the binding procedure is in there. Yes, flip the English is on the next page.
Can you read that?
Don't you know Chinese?
I don't know if that's Chinese. Oh, look.
Yep, then the next page has the binding.
Okay. Binding procedure. After powering on the aircraft, turn on the transmitter while simultaneously pressing on the 2 pairing buttons on the transmitter for 3 seconds to enter pairing mode. Press the receiver button once. The pairing process is now complete. Ignore if the radio system is already paired. It's probably already paired in our case. Show them that, like just hover over it for a second. You guys can always look up these manuals too, in case you're wondering. Follow the links in the video description below. You can buy the planes from the links. Of course, they send us commission for selling these things or helping to sell them. But at the end of the day, we don't want to talk you into buying something you don't like. We want to help you make a good decision on what to buy. And so we partner up with a bunch of different brands that are competitive with each other, and we bring you true choices between this and Horizon and Bitco Hobby and all the different brands. And they always love it when we mention the competitors in their videos, but the reality is we're here to serve you and not these guys, not Arrows, not Hobby Zone, not Horizon Hobby, not Bitco Hobby, although we do work with these people. And we enjoy working with them. We have good relationships with them. But part of the reason we get away with telling you when planes are terrible and they keep working with us is because we tell you when they're really good and you buy from the links below, and then they feel happy and they feel like they got a good value from our services. So our services to you are to bring you the full story, and then you can make your own mind up. But of course, we're gonna kind of give you our opinion, our spin on these different things. But at the end of the day, you know, we have a lot of planes, and we try to put into perspective the fact that this is X number of dollars compared to this other one that's like 4 times as much, compared to this one that's even cheaper, okay? Economical, fits in the car good price point, you know, easy to use, good stabilizer, auto leveling, good beginner plane. These are the types of things that we bring to the table, and we help you guys decide what you want to buy. We don't want to talk you into this plane if you don't like the Cessna 150 tail dragger, okay? But we do want to teach you what's good about this and why you might pick that when you would ordinarily pick something different. So anyway, that's the quick two-second overview. But if you buy from the links below, we are affiliated with these companies. They send us small commissions, and that's how we fund this channel. And make no mistake about it, we spend a lot of time on it. So that being said, we're gonna stop talking about that, but check the video description below. And my point was, you could also get these electronically.
Yep.
From most all of our brands. You just basically look at the video description, follow the link, and then of course, if you decide to buy it, that's great too. But the thing is, there'll be some technical information that will be available. You can also find replacement parts, motors, ESCs, servos, and the sort. Sometimes you can buy wings, sometimes you can buy fuselages, sometimes you can buy almost nothing. And it just depends on stock, and it depends on the brands. The better brands are gonna offer replaceable parts, like Arrows, Hobby Zone. They're gonna offer replacement motors. And then sometimes you might wanna upgrade or get a more expensive battery, a little bit better battery, different chargers like what we reviewed today. And that is gonna be stuff that we can help you through too if you have questions. So anyway, back to the point. So we're probably already bound. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna protect our body so that we know that, just pretend like this is gonna turn on and spin like crazy. So how are you gonna manipulate your body to be in a safe spot? So I'm gonna be in a safe spot here. And there's also another thing, if you don't have your throttle down, you wanna get your throttle down, all the way down. Normally I would have a throttle cut over here or a throttle hold on a helicopter, and it would force this output to be as though the stick were down, okay? We set that up on most of our plug and fly and bind and fly planes, okay? So we're gonna plug this in a way that keeps us safe from the potential for damage, and we're prepared to deal with it. This is keyed, so you can't put it in backward. Okay, wait a few seconds. We have some flashing lights going on over here. We have an elevator that just came to life. We have dancing. That means that the receiver is ready. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab this while I'm still securing the plane. Okay, we have movement. That's pretty cool. I'm just gonna now quickly test the throttle. Yep, and you've got a couple of clicks before it kicks in. That's nice, but it's still a little bit scary because I'm used to throttle cut. Throttle cut is one of the best safety features you can use on an aircraft, and it's one of the easiest to use, but on a ready to fly, you don't always have that. So we don't have that here today. Okay, so we're gonna be super careful with this thing. Up is up, down is down, roll left, roll right. Yaw left and yaw right is backwards, so we have to reverse this. Okay, so when you move this stick over here, that should be going the other way. Okay, so now yaw left, yaw right is the correct direction. Roll left, roll right is the correct direction. So when you move it like this, that's gonna go up, that's gonna go down. I'm not gonna go into the elaborate explanation as to why. This goes up, this goes down, this yaws left, this yaws right. So now we need to center the controls so that we're ready to take off and have this thing go in a relatively straight path. And then we're gonna talk about flaps and ailerons and that sort of thing, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do, that beep is gonna get annoying, but that's okay. We'll survive, I hope. Ow. Picking my nose on my plane, come over here. See this? What are we gonna do to center this? Because show them from the top. You see how this is kind of veering over like that? But it's not because I'm moving my stick, it just happens to be neutral. We need to also see what mode we're in right now. So let's do that. First of all, there's 2 switches. Okay, so that must be the mode. And flaps, very cool. No delay, you'll note that it's fast acting. So it's quick. Okay, normally we would put a delay in there. What's gonna happen when you deploy those flaps, there's no correction on here, so the plane's gonna wanna, woo, it's gonna wanna balloon as soon as you deploy them. So be ready for it. Okay, so now the other thing is, we need to know what mode we're in. You hear that noise?
Stabilization.
That's the stabilizer or auto leveling. We don't know that yet. So now I'm gonna grab from here, secure the plane and go up with the elevator, or excuse me, up with the aileron, and I'm gonna look at that and see if it goes up when I move up. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, but then it stops. It goes down, it goes up. Okay, this goes up, this goes down. That goes away, that goes toward. That means it's working in the right direction. So as the wind were to blow this rudder toward me, it would try to correct by pointing at me, okay? So it's gonna try to keep the plane going straight. Same thing here. If the wind were to blow up, watch what happens to it. I'm gonna go slow. See how it goes up? Then it stops. Then it goes down and it stops. Same thing over here. Down, up. It's hard to see on camera, but take my word for it. Now, the other thing is, just to be sure if we're in the right mode, see how they're not jumping around like crazy? It's trying to bring it level. Look at the elevator. It's trying to bring it to level. That's auto leveling, okay? The easiest way to tell, flip it on its back. The other way you can tell that you're in that mode, so safe as, or the auto leveling is all the way back, is you can move your controls and you see how it moves up more and it moves less and it moves more. I've got the stick all the way down. Okay, see it's up all the way and then it moves a little bit less. Now when I roll, it moves more when you're out of the auto leveling mode because it's gonna limit your control mode is gonna also limit your outputs. So instead of being 100%, it might be like 80%, okay? So that's called dual rates. So that's mixed into the auto leveling channel. Now you also note that we have flashing wing lights. We have a flashing front light. We have a flashing green light. But if you want, you could actually make them potentially not flash at all. In fact, I'm wondering if we did that wrong because I'd like those to stay on solid. Now, this one's on solid. So really what I would like is I would like this to be on all the time. I would like this to be on solid. I don't want them flashing. So we'll look at that here in a minute. But before we do that, let's look back at the rudder and elevator. And yes, you may note that we jump around a little bit. That's because we look at what's happening and we respond. And this is the way that we go through a build. Okay, so obviously this needs to be straight. It's currently favoring over like this. So we're gonna take this off with our thumbnail or fingernail, and we're just gonna kind of center that and say, okay, where do we need to be? You see where that's like straight? See how I'm way past it? So I need to turn this in a few turns. Now, how do we do that? We just basically brace this control, and then we can turn it in 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4/2. Okay, so that's like 2 turns in maybe. And then that should be about right. Let's see how it looks when I actually put it in. Looks pretty centered, doesn't it? Okay, so now that we're centered, we can snap this just like that and then slide that rubber back. We're gonna move things, make sure it moves free. Yep, we're good. Okay, so now same thing with the elevator. We wanna hold the plane at this attitude and we can tell it's pointed up. But we're in auto leveling, so we need to get out of that mode so it doesn't auto level. That's gonna auto level. So it's gonna move it. So we gotta make sure we're out of auto leveling. Okay, so now at this point, we need to bring that down a little bit. So how are we gonna bring it down? We're gonna pop this thing out with our thumbnail and we're gonna turn it in a couple of turns. 2, 3, 4. 4/2 turns. So that'd be about 2 turns. And in the bottommost hole. Oh, dang it. Okay, so how do we look? Oh yeah, that's about perfect.
Good. Yeah.
You see that? So it was like 4 turns on each. So then we're just gonna snap this. Oops. Okay. And then it snaps on, and then you can slide this little gas tube, fuel tube back, up, down. That is a lot of throw, goodness gracious. Okay, so this thing, right now, I could go outside and fly this thing. So let's put it on the ground, we'll do some taxiing. We happen to have no dining room table today because we have one coming in the mail tomorrow. So that's why there's no dining room table. So forgive the lack of a dining room table. Okay, elevator up and down. Everything's working. We'll just do a little taxi here. Pretty good ground handling, real simple. Okay, and then we'll stop the plane. Everything feels good, everything looks good, the flaps are working. So now really the only thing left is basically what I need to do is I took and marked on my transmitter, well actually the camera crew did. This is gonna be where I wanna mark what mode is what, okay? And that's gonna help me so that when I'm flying, because I'm not used to where the controls are, I can tell. So this one's, I'm gonna call it auto leveling, so I'm gonna call it safe. Whoops, that's a different competitive brand's name, but that's okay. Safe is forward, and then stabilizer is back. Okay, so that's the mode. And then over here, we gotta be careful not to hit that. We have flaps. Okay. And then all the way forward, flaps are on, and then flaps are off. So can you even see those, camera crew, from that angle? How about this? Let's try that. Okay. So that would be what we would call like a landing flap, where it's all the way down. This would be like a takeoff flap. It's a little bit more than I would normally program in for a takeoff flap. And then all the way back is your regular flight mode. So there's a couple things that happen when you deploy flaps. It changes the shape of the wing. So it reduces your stall speed, but it increases your drag, okay? So it's gonna slow you down. But it's also gonna slow you down in such a way that it creates a little bit of a balloon on an inboard flap with a standard tail, okay? So when you give throttle, you're gonna basically see that the plane wants to go up a little bit, almost like your elevator needs to be trimmed. So don't trim your plane with your flaps down, trim them with your flaps like this, okay? The other thing is when you do that, it will slow your plane down, but that doesn't mean it's just gonna fly at 0 miles an hour. You still need to be moving. This is one way you can cheat to get in the air faster if you have some tall grass, okay? Takeoff flaps are typically half because you reduce the drag, but you increase the amount of lift that you're generating with the same speed, okay? But if you go to the landing flaps, then you get more extreme lift, but you have more extreme drag, so it's sort of like loses the battle, the trade-off. That's why you do a 3-position switch, okay? So now that we've gone over tons of information that you probably don't need to get in the air, the primary controls are elevator up, that's gonna make the nose go up, elevator down, that's gonna make the nose go down. This rolls the plane, this rolls the plane. Now when you are in this mode, when you let go, it's gonna snap back. When you let go, it's gonna snap back. It's gonna limit you so you don't tip it over all the way. It's gonna limit how high you can go up and so on and so forth, okay? But when you're in this mode, all that's gonna happen is as you're flying along, if the wind were to push your wing down, it's gonna resist. But it's not gonna keep you level. You might be in this, you know, in a turn, a banking turn, and it pushes down, well, it's gonna resist. Okay, so that's what stabilization does, okay? And then there's a middle mode, and I'm not sure what that is. I think it's nothing, so it's off, okay? So no stabilizer, no nothing. Okay, so we've covered everything on how this Bigfoot goes together, with the exception of lights.
Oh, and CG.
And CG. So let's talk about CG. And CG is a very important function of getting a plane to fly good. The center of gravity defines where the pivot point is on the plane, okay?
I was gonna look and see what it was.
60 to 70.
Oh,
Is that where it was?
I don't know.
So we have the world's crappiest calipers again for some reason today. So I'm just gonna set that to 6 centimeters, which is 60. And I'm gonna go from right here. I actually wanna put it probably on the bottom of the wing. So I'm gonna lay this on the couch so it's easy, and then I can make that antenna not an issue. Thank you, if you can just hold that so it doesn't fall. Thank you. So we're gonna go 60 millimeters in and mark. So 60 millimeters in for us is right on the edge of the red, okay? So that's pretty sweet. And I'm just making a little bump so I can feel it with my finger. And it looks like this one is, if I go to the right spot, it'll be right on the bump. And then I'm gonna go to 70, which is 7 centimeters. And I'm gonna just go out here and right in line, and I'm gonna make another little bump. And I'm gonna make another bump back here. So now I'm gonna take and highlight that with a marker. You're probably thinking to yourself, you're gonna destroy that beautiful plane with a marker? Yeah, this is just so it's easy to find for us. If you had a much more, you know, like super scale plane and you wanted to make some different arrangements for marking your CG, a lot of guys will use push pins or maybe a drip of hot glue or some tape with some CA on there. I've done that for years. In this case, I just want to be able to see them quick and easy and not have to fight to look for them. So I'm going to start with my middle finger. That's pretty much perfect. So I don't know, I just think we got lucky. Now the way that you fix that is you either add weight or you just basically move the battery forward or backward, depending on, I kind of pointed that backwards, so backward or forward. And if you bring the battery more forward, it's gonna make the plane balance more nose heavy, okay? So basically what you're gonna wanna do is you want, when you're starting on a plane, you generally want it to be more nose heavy than tail heavy, okay? I would say right now, we're balancing on the front point, we're just a hair on the tail heavy side, and on the back point, we're a little bit closer to balanced out. So this battery could probably stand to go forward just a hair. And because we put that Velcro on there, it's a little bit challenging. So I'm gonna push from the back just a little teeny bit. Okay, and that's probably all we need. So once you get that done, you can drop that back in, find your CG marks. Center of gravity is another way that people will call out the center of gravity there. See, and it's just level, that's good enough. Okay, so this plane will fly in its current condition. We may prefer to change the way that it flies a little bit. So what we'll do is once we get our first flight done, we'll make some adjustments if necessary. Maybe we wanna ride it a little bit more back or a little bit more forward, but we'll talk about it. And you guys have already seen the flight, but if you wanna see more, then a lot of times we'll do second thoughts videos on planes. Not sure if we're gonna do it on this plane, but we really appreciate you coming along for the ride. And if you have questions, please do leave them in the video description below, or not in the video description, leave them in the comments below, and we'll try to help you out by answering those comments. And if we don't get to it at a time, sometimes other people will answer your comments. But if we're behind, it's usually a couple of days. That's our normal timeline. But this thing looks like it's gonna work out pretty good. Obviously 4 AA's is the only thing you don't get when you buy this. And then the other thing is just a handful of different tools. They're pretty basic tools. The forceps would be the only weird tool that you may not have already sitting around. I think most of you have a small Phillips screwdriver. The other thing is these flashing lights. I am going to pull the wing off and look and see if I can switch them. So we'll pause the video and do that off camera because I don't want to waste your time. All right, guys, so I'm gonna show you a trick. Now, I'm not saying you should do this, but I hate flashing lights on airplanes if they're navigational lights, okay? Because navigational lights in a flash state always seem to be flashing when you need to know where they are. They're off when you need to know where you are. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna go from flashing to solid with almost no effort, okay? So I'm basically gonna take, this is the little control module that comes off of the servo lead. Okay, so you can see that would be plugged in here normally, and that causes the green light on the other wing to turn on. Let's show them what it looks like real quick. See it? See how it's on, it's flashing. Okay, so it's got a slow heartbeat to it. That'd be great for an anti-crash beacon, or maybe even honestly, the nose light would be good with that. So I wonder if maybe that's what I'll do, is I'm gonna take that, and I'm actually gonna switch it around, okay? So I'm gonna use this plug here to go into the nose light. You see the nose light's pointed forward on the ground, camera crew. Okay, so I just unplugged the nose light, okay? Now I'm gonna plug this instead into the nose light, so we have a flashing light on the nose light, which is kind of cool. Then I'm gonna take this, okay? This is the green light. And I'm gonna take and plug this into, I need you to just find the red and brown. Okay, so red and brown. So I need to flip this to the other side because it's hard to reach. You see how there's a red and brown there? All I'm gonna do is just plug it into this little Y cable splitter here. And then you'll note that the light turns on over there on the green light. If you see it over there, see how it's on and it's solid, it's not flashing. Because it's not going through this control output, it's just on, okay? Now the same is true over here. You can do the exact same thing on the white and red navigation light, which I prefer to be solid. So there is definitely a way to do that. Now the only issue with that is that I don't see that there's another place to plug in, but really you can actually plug it in to any port on any opened port of any receiver as long as you have enough length. That's the S-bus plug, but there should be a plus voltage and minus voltage. So let's see what we got here. Now look, we're gonna have the other ones turn on here in about 2 seconds. Yep, as you can see, lights are on, lights are on. So without adding any extra wires or special programming or anything weird like that, we pretty much have, I think I yanked out the other wire now, dang it. So as you can see, we just unplugged the other wire too. So all we have to do is just get that plug back in and then park it inside of the airplane and we'll be golden and ready to fly. And then we still have a cool flashing light feature. I'd actually kind of like to make this one flash maybe, but it's kind of doesn't really matter. So if you like that, you can also just use a Y splitter. A regular conventional Y splitter will actually give you a similar and probably quite a little bit easier way of doing that. And you get these Y splitters occasionally in the airplanes. And so that Y splitter would look just like this. And here's 2 examples. That's just an extension cord. Here's one example. So this would plug into any open port or share an existing channel. It doesn't even matter. And then one of these would continue on to what you were using, and then this would go out and you can steal from the plus and the minus. That's gonna power your circuit for the lights. Okay, and there's already a resistor in series, so you don't need to worry about it. Here's another example. This one doesn't have the locks on it, but same thing. Sometimes there's different color codes, so like this is white, red, and black. So white would be equivalent to the orange, and then black would be equivalent to the brown. The red is still red. Okay, so that's all we have for you tonight, guys. Really cool. I like the Bigfoot. I might just pause here. We'll get the lights set and give you one final look as we go close. So as you can see, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I'm excited to see it fly. Obviously we got flaps. We've got solid green light. We got solid red light. We've got solid forward facing white light. And then we have this cool flashing feature here. Now, you can make them all solid if you want, or you can make them all flash if you want. But just really, really happy with the way this thing went together. I'm a little bit concerned about the extreme amount of ballooning that we're gonna see on this, but it isn't something that can't be resolved, because at the end of the day, I'm hoping that Vector will help us to tolerate that a little bit better. And when I say Vector, I mean the onboard stabilizer. The thing looks absolutely fabulous.
Yep.
I mean, that is a really nice, clean package. In terms of things that we had to provide that we didn't have, again, was just 4 AA's for the transmitter. And again, you can buy this in a non-ready to fly package as well. If you'd like to get it as a plug and fly, put an AR630 in there, it'd be perfect. Set it up with your Spectrum receiver like an NX8 or NX6. You could do some cool things with that. You could have safe, auto leveling just like you do, but the Vector is actually pretty economical and it seems to work great. So at this point, our recommendation would be, if you're in the market for a bind and fly, probably go with the Vector. I think it's a great way to get out of an expensive receiver, but if you prefer to have the expensive receiver and do everything, maybe some more fuller, more robust telemetry, you can go with the AR630 or the AR637T if you really want to blow some money. But the thing is, that would mean that you could buy the lesser expensive. We have links to all 3 choices, and obviously spare parts and anything else that they sell at hobbyzone.com. So we're super happy to be partnered with these guys. For years, we've been trying to get partnered up with them, and it just hasn't worked out. And then all of a sudden it happened, and we're super excited to be doing it. Everything seems super high quality, very much more than we expected. When we first got into it, we were thinking more on the toy grade, but these have been right up there with the FMSs of the world, with the Horizons of the world, and we're very, very happy so far with the X-Flies of the world, and just can't wait to get this thing in the air. So hopefully, if it would just not be dark at 5 o'clock tomorrow, that'd be great, Mother Nature. Come back for more. Thanks for watching.